the rape and murder of the medical student in Kolkata has shaken all of us. We are in deep anguish, and all of us have a need for justice. That if there is more than one culprit, he should be caught. Now that CBI is handling things, let's hope that justice will be delivered soon. But there is one more concern which is deeply bothering me. Some of my patients have messaged me that, doctor, what is happening to the men of this country? One of my doctor friends who felt safe at her workplace till yesterday now is feeling very unsafe at her workplace. And the biggest reason for my concern is that many years back, when Nirbhaya case happened and she had to undergo all that torture, that time also all of us were disturbed so much. And I also used to get a lot of thoughts, what may have happened that day, how painful it must have been, etc. And I used to get terrified. A lot of young adolescent girls at that time also had gone through the same emotional experience, and some of them had its impact on their sexual life. I'm a sexologist, and almost half my time I spend in helping couples who are dealing with a sexual problem called vaginismus. In vaginismus, whenever a husband and a wife attempt to have sex, the muscles around the vagina contract, because of which any attempt at penetration is extremely painful and they can't have sex. Why does this happen? One common reason is if that girl during her adolescent years has repeatedly got the message that sex is a bad thing, should not be done, one should not talk to boys, etc. And if this messaging has gone deep in her subconscious, then the subconscious starts contracting the vagina. Another common reason is that if there is fear about sex in the mind and a belief that sex is very painful for women, it's just that the husbands enjoy and therefore one has to do it, then also the subconscious contracts to prevent any sex from taking place. Why does this fear come in? Many reasons for that, but one reason is if some news of a rape has had a deep impact on that adolescent girl's mind, then also this can happen. Hence, now that this violent crime has happened in Kolkata and the news we all are going through repeatedly, I'm concerned. Can this impact significantly the minds of adolescent girls now? And will some of them have vaginismus in future? I don't want this to happen, and therefore, even though this is a sexual issue, I am making a public video so that if there is any adolescent girl in your home, then you can help her take a balanced perspective on this whole issue so that she doesn't get harmed. So what can be done? Most importantly, reporting of such crimes should be done in a very sensitive way. Yes, truth should come out, and therefore it should come in the news. If there is a possibility that investigations are not being fair, someone is being shielded, then that also should be discussed in the news. But what were the details of the horror committed? Is that necessary to be known by everyone? Yes, the police, the judge, the relatives and friends of the victim who are fighting for the case, they should know it. But should the details of what all autopsy findings were there be known by all the kids and adults and everyone in the country? This time, even the photos of that victim after her death are being circulated on the internet. What is gonna be the impact of all this? In my opinion, if all news channels and all YouTube influencers keep talking about what are the horrifying details of the event, then I don't think that is a useful reporting. Secondly, there is a psychological concept called availability heuristic. It means that if we repeatedly hear a news, then we start believing that that particular thing is extremely common and the risk of that happening to me is also high, and then I develop a fear of that particular thing. Example, if I have repeatedly seen the report of a plane crash, then I can develop a fear of that and start believing that it is dangerous to travel in a plane. And then if I have to travel by the plane, I'll feel extremely anxious during the flight. Yes, this event which has happened with the doctor is extremely bad. We should be discussing it. We should be expressing our anger or whatever emotions we are feeling. However, repeatedly seeing the news about how bad and how horrible it was, how is that gonna help us or her family or anyone? So I would request, don't over consume the news which is coming. And secondly, we must try that our discussion on this topic is in a constructive direction. Example, rather than discussing the details of how horrible it was, if we focus on why something like this took place, what are the preventive measures we can take so that in future this will not happen to others, that will be a more constructive discussion in my opinion. Thirdly, we must make sure that we don't overgeneralize what has happened in our mind. Yes, there are some men who are abusive towards women, who commit crimes towards women, but majority men are respectful and helpful towards women. Example, just because some doctors write unnecessary investigations or do some malpractices doesn't mean that we start thinking that all doctors are bad, right? Majority doctors keep the patient's interest in the mind and keep working day and night without bothering about their own comfort and luxuries, etc. Similarly, majority men are nice human beings. They are understanding and respectful towards their partner, and even in the public, if they see that someone is bothering a girl, they come in between and protect her. And that is why majority of such crimes happen in the night or at a secluded place where others are not around. Those people who are involved with these protests of this crime, a lot of them are also men. Rapes do continue to happen in India as well as across the world. And yes, we must continue to make efforts that not even a single case of rape should happen. However, at places where adequate security is there, where people are around, where the environment is safe, even at such places, if women start feeling unsafe, then I think that is not necessary. If girls over here start believing that any girl, anywhere, anytime can get raped, and they start living with a constant sense of fear, then I think all this discussion is going to result in more harm than any good. And therefore, I would request you to keep in mind that just as it is necessary that all the culprits get caught and they get punished, it is also important that we don't overgeneralize the implications of what does this event mean. And I would also want to reassure medical students that just because this happened or because at times people get violent against doctors does not mean that there is no use of all the effort that you're going to put in or all the care that you're going to show towards people. 90% of our patients continue to be extremely thankful and appreciative and respectful towards the doctors. And fourth, what can be done so that listening to all these news and looking at the frightening images, a young girl does not develop vaginismus in future? If there is a young girl at your home, then you can sit with her and have a frank conversation on this issue. You can ask her what is she thinking about this horrible crime. You can reassure her that she can express to you whatever emotions are coming up for her. You can ask her if she has any questions in her mind that are bothering her. You can help her take a balanced perspective at what has happened. You can explain her that just as a person using a knife to kill someone and a surgeon using a knife to operate on someone are two completely different things. Similarly, a person forcibly committing rape on someone and two people who love each other consensually engaging in sexual intimacy are two completely different things. There is no need to fear normal sexual intercourse. When done consensually, sex is not painful. When done with the right person at the right time, sexual intimacy is a very pleasurable experience which increases the bond between two people. All husbands are not selfish or cruel. Most husbands are very understanding of the needs of their partner and act as a very big support in their life. If her mind does not get filled with false prejudices now, then she would be saved from having to take months of counseling later on. But yes, that doesn't mean we should not do anything regarding what has happened. We all must definitely give a thought to what can be done to stop these crimes from happening and take some firm actions as well. What all can be done? There can be many thoughts on that. But there are three simple solutions which all of us must definitely give a thought to. One, security must be stepped up wherever required. CCTV should be there, etc. Second, girls should be taught karate, etc. so that they can do their self-defense whenever required. And third, we must put efforts to ensure that the prevalence of alcohol consumption decreases in our society. Now the third one, all of you may not be convinced. So let me explain. In the Nirbhaya case and the current case, the mindless violence, the cruelty which we saw, one of the reasons for that was that the criminals were intoxicated. Their ability to think, differentiate between what is right, what is wrong, had decreased. They were disinhibited. In this month only, I read another news wherein one person under intoxication of alcohol committed rape on his own daughter. In many surveys, it has been seen that in almost 50% cases of rape, the person committing the rape was intoxicated. It's only in advertisements of alcohol companies that people who drink alcohol are very brave and they protect women. But in real life, most crimes against women happen under the intoxicated state, impulsively, without thinking about the consequences. Friends, if we wish that crimes against women should decrease in our society, then we have no other option but to give a thought. How can we decrease the prevalence of alcohol consumption in our society? And therefore, one of the demands which doctor organizations put forth before the government after this crime was that in the areas surrounding hospitals and medical colleges, alcohol sale should not be allowed. But friends, sadly, in the last 2 decades, alcohol consumption has been rapidly increasing in our society. Well-educated people have also started thinking that it is normal to take alcohol. Friends, no one gets addicted by choice. Addictiveness is a physiological property of this substance and it can happen to anyone. Crores of individuals in India and across the world get addicted to this. And once addicted, alcohol destroys them physically, mentally, socially, financially, spiritually. So many women and children get assaulted every day in their own homes because of this substance. And yet, everyone keeps thinking that it won't happen to me. My family won't have to suffer because I am gonna drink in control only throughout life. Friends, I encourage you, please learn from the experiences of others. Don't let it happen to your family. I request you, please don't allow it in parties and marriages of your family. If we wish that crimes against women should decrease in our society, then we cannot continue to give this social acceptance or even social prestige to this whole idea of consuming this intoxicating substance. On one hand, a lot of actors, actresses, cricketers are doing advertisements for alcohol brands. And on other hand, parents, teachers, doctors no longer feel confident to tell youngsters to not touch alcohol. We fear looking orthodox. We don't need to force them but at least it is our responsibility to explain them once that this is an addictive poison. It's like hitting the axe on your leg, don't do it. If we are not willing to do even this much, then we also have responsibility that addictive substances are so rapidly increasing in our society. Friends, if you would like to discuss this issue with youngsters around you but are not confident what to say, how to answer their queries, what is recent scientific evidence on this issue, then there are some talks on our YouTube channel. You can please go through them. To conclude, if you also agree with me that in order to decrease crimes against women, we need to decrease the prevalence of alcohol use in our society, and especially if you are a person who commands respect in the society, then I appeal to you, please consider giving up alcohol. You may never get addicted to alcohol, but looking at you, a lot of people who regard you to be their role model will think that it must be normal, it is okay to drink alcohol, and they will get addicted probably. And also, I would appeal to all the state governments, please give up your addiction to the revenue which comes from the sale of alcohol. Rather than thinking how do we improve the sales of alcohol and our revenue, please focus on how do we protect the well-being of our citizens and how do we decrease the sale of alcohol. Jai Hind.